everyone, and welcome to Emotional Grit, the podcast where you can learn about the power of perspective and the science that fuels us. I'm your host, Jennifer Fernjack, and today's guest is Brian Wagner. He's an author and keynote speaker, and today he wants to share his personal story of grit with us so that we could actually learn from it and be inspired. So, Brian, with that being said, let's go back to when you were 10 years old and you were looking at going to your camp. I think it was a football camp, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
And just how things took a turn that you didn't see coming. So please feel free to start there.
Yeah. So when I was 10 years old, I really wanted to be a football player. That's all I ever wanted to be. I loved it when, you would see the seniors wearing their football jerseys to school on Friday before the big game. All that. I mean, I just loved being able to be in that environment. So anyway, I went to football camp 2 days. Third day, well, actually the end of the second day, I came home and laid on the couch. I couldn't do anything, couldn't get up, didn't know what was going on. So I went to the restroom and there I blacked out. And when I blacked out, I was taken to the ER. And at the ER, they determined that I had hydrocephalus, which was a buildup of fluid on my brain. And in order to get that to go out, they put a shunt in. And it's a shunt that I still have until this day. It's a shunt that drains fluid from my brain to my abdomen. So, it's what I have. It's right here on the left side of my head. So, yeah.
Wow. And I was thinking there was something where when you did go use the restroom, wasn't it was it because you blacked out that you then fell and hit your head on the toilet? Or there was something that played a role there in your story?
Right. Yeah, I fell and I hit my chin on the toilet bowl. So that caused me, obviously I blacked out anyways, but hitting my chin on the toilet bowl didn't help at all. So I had 6 stitches. I think it was six stitches put in my chin, and that was just part of it.
Okay. So going forward then from that day on, did you have somewhat of a sense of normalcy at that point, or what happened next as far as just how it affected you physically?
So really, I mean, and that was in 1977. So I spent my days listening to the transistor radio that was next to my bed, talking about how Elvis had died. So if that means anything to you, then that was what I was listening to at the time was Elvis. So once that happened, I did have some double vision. When I laid on my bed or laid on the couch and looked at the TV, I saw double. I didn't really know why. So that didn't really persist when normally. So I was able to be a normal boy until 1992 when I was 35 and had a what do we call it? Actually, I was 25 in 92. So I had a numbness on the entire right side of my body. So for whatever reason, I was numb. Didn't know why. My right hand was numb. My right foot was numb. But they didn't know why. And they ended up doing an MRI on me. And that's when they determined that I had a cavernous malformation, or a CAV-mal, if you will, or a venous angioma. They've called many different things. So then that's when they determined that I had this in my brain stem. But they said, don't ever let someone operate on your brain stem. Okay. So that's what I went with from 1992 on until 2011. So, and so in 92, the symptoms went away. And I was able to resume, normal function. I was, doing my work thing. I ended up working at IBM for 10 years and, just really enjoyed life.
So then, if my memory serves me right, you were on a business trip, if I'm not mistaken, where things took another turn. So what happened on that business trip that is part of your story?
You, Jennifer, have done your homework. This is good.
Oh yeah.
So
Yes.
I was
What I lack in culinary abilities, I make up for with details when it comes to this kind of stuff. So yeah.
Wow, yeah, that's good. So, anyways, I was on a business trip in Davenport, Iowa, with a friend of mine, actually a colleague of mine, and very much unlike me, I had one beer and I went to bed. So that was odd because normally I would have a lot more than one beer.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was back in the 90s, mid 90s. So went to bed. And the next morning he got up, and when he got up, he waited for me to come down, and I never came down. So he ended up having them break down my door in order to get to me because I wouldn't wake up. I wouldn't answer phone calls. I wouldn't answer anything, knocks on the door, any of that. So he ended up having them, the manager of the hotel, break the door down in order to get to me, and that's when my wife. We were living in Chicago area at the time, but my wife was in St. Louis. My mom and dad were in Branson, Missouri. So they ended up, all three of them came to me in Davenport, Iowa, and that's where we determined that I had another brain bleed, but I had gone into a coma, and that's why I didn't wake up. So when I went into a coma, they woke me up finally, and they ended up shipping me, for lack of a better term, to Chicago, where I was from. So it was good, and there were a lot better doctors there, a lot more machinery that could help me. So that's what it is.
Okay. So you get there then, and what were kind of the next steps, and what exactly happened then?
Oh boy, that's been a long, long time ago, almost 30 years ago. But I mean, I remember, being in the hospital for a few days, not wanting to be there. I've always been impatient. I've always been one to, leave the door open, pace the hall, make sure that people know that I'm in there, and complain as much as I can complain. I'm a really bad patient. But, I just remember being in there and wanting to be out. That was really what it was all about at that point. I still had two good eyes and thought that I would be able to resume a normal life.
Mm-hmm. Were there certain moments throughout this whole journey where your mindset went from more kind of negative and kind of part of like getting caught up in the uncertainty to, you know what, I've got to make the best out of this? Or did that not come until you had your sight affected?
Yeah. So really, I mean, I've known about this for a long time, but that doesn't matter. I mean, people always ask me, "Well, have you known about this for a long time?" And that doesn't matter. The impact of this, much like when somebody dies, didn't know about this for a while. Yeah, but that doesn't matter. So I think how me personally, I didn't have a situation where I felt positive about this, and I'm just going to get through it. I didn't think there was anything to get through. So it was when the blindness happened in 2011. That's when it got real.
So, and what exactly brought on the blindness, or what happened there?
So I was on a business trip, actually training in Cleveland, which is about 2 hours north of me. I'm in Columbus. And towards the end of the day, the PowerPoints started to get blurry and they started to get double. And I thought I was just tired because I gotten up early that day and drove up to Cleveland. But when I got to my car, I realized something was not right because I could tell my depth perception was off.
Okay.
I had just got a new car. It was a 2011 Ford Taurus, and it had all the bells and whistles. It had the rear detection or blind spot detection, which has been phenomenal.
Nice.
But then also had the backup camera. And when I put it in the backup camera, it looked like everything was right up on me.
Mm.
But that was not the case. There was nothing behind me. So that was the hardest thing to do, was to get out of that garage, for one. And then once I finally got out of that garage, I just hit the home button. I mean, that was all I could do. I mean, I had a brand new GPS on the car. It was phenomenal, very helpful. But hitting that GPS got me to where I wanted to be. Now, I did have to stop a couple of times on the way home. I called my wife, told her, what was going on. Figured I just needed rest, and, got back on the road. But my car at that point had auto collection or auto detection cruise control. So it wouldn't allow me to run into anything, which was nice. So, got home and just laid on the couch, and, figured I'd sleep it off on the couch that night.
So I know as part of your keynote speech, you mentioned something about how your eyelids didn't want to open.
Yeah.
Was that happening at this stage, or did that come later?
No, that came that night. That night of March 3rd to March 4th. I woke up March 4th at 3 a.m. and stumbled my way to the restroom, and I couldn't tell what was going on. I knew something was not right. I flipped on the light switch, and nothing seemed to happen. I looked towards the mirror, and I could see a sliver of light coming out of the bottom of my eyes. So the power was on, but I didn't know what to do at that point. I mean, my face was swollen at that point. I mean, it was probably twice the size of normal, and my eyelids wouldn't open. So both of my eyelids had what's called ptosis. Ptosis is when you can't lift your eyelids and they're down. So my right eyelid right now, it has ptosis, so it doesn't open. At that point, my left eyelid had ptosis as well. So if my right eyelid were open, I still wouldn't see well because I have double vision. So both of my eyes don't go on the same plane. So even though they may look normal, they're not normal.
Well, one thing that I really appreciated about both our conversation over the phone and your keynote speech that I watched is how you incorporate humor into the situation. Because one would think that, how could you put humor in along the way in this story? But you do, and it's the same mindset that I've had with my brain tumor story, where humor can actually kind of take the edge off your experience.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, don't you have a website that's like One Eye Brian or Brian with one eye or something to that effect because
Brian
of the fact that your eyes?
Yeah, exactly. Brian with one eye, and then there's also I'm not winking at you.com. That's out there too.
Oh, I'm not winking at you.com. That's awesome. Right. So now I know with humor, it's something where you have to kind of have the right way to kind of segue into it, because if you have the wrong audience and someone's maybe a little bit more sensitive towards something, it might not work. But I would say, generally speaking, I know that. Do you know the comedian? Oh gosh, I can't think of his name now. Oh, I'm losing my train of thought. He has blonde hair. He's been on Law and Order, but his wife also had a brain tumor, just like me, and he's incorporated humor into their story. And I know that when I listened to your speech, you mentioned how you and your family used to think back to that movie Kindergarten Cop, and how like the kid says to Arnold Schwarzenegger, "Yeah, it's not a tumor," that kind of thing. And but that was kind of a way for your family to unite about different things. But then, life threw another curveball, where not only were you having your situation with obviously your sight being affected and different things in the brain, but then your wife had her own health scare. So could you please tell us a little bit about what happened to her?
She had a benign tumor of bone, benign something tumor of bone. Anyway, so it was cancer. It was not. It was cancerous. It was not malignant, so it didn't move, but it was in her pelvis, and that was back in 2009. She had the first bout, but actually then again she had it in, I forget, 2011, maybe the same time as I did. I don't remember, but she had a couple of bouts with that cancer in her bone, in her pelvis bone. So really excruciating to live with, and really excruciating to be operated on. But what they ended up doing was they went into her bone and they hollowed it out and they filled it all in with like bone cement. So that's how they took care of it.
Wow. So did the two of you kind of end up changing places, so to speak, as far as you were the primary patient and she was the caregiver? And then for a while, then she was more of the patient, then you were more of the caregiver, and kind of the two of you having to just kind of navigate these waters together?
Yeah, really. I mean, she's always been the caregiver. Didn't matter, whether she's in a bad spot or not. I mean, she's always been phenomenal. She's always been there for me. She actually drove me to all of my. I had sales calls. I didn't have my sales job slip. I didn't want to have my relationship slip. So I kept up my sales calls for the next 6 months after having surgery. She drove me to all my calls and sat in the parking lot until I got out.
Wow. That's amazing. That is amazing.
That is amazing.
I mean, unbelievable. And for you too, as far as having that discipline and drive to still want to maintain those relationships with your clients. I mean, that also speaks a lot about you and just kind of creating a sense of normalcy, even though it might be kind of a new normal, but still kind of whatever that means for you, being able to kind of just still pursue it and make it happen, and by the way, I should note that comedian I was trying to name is Jim Gaffigan. That's the comedian, whose wife had a brain tumor. But yes, so humor.
Okay.
Exactly. He loves those hot pockets, right? Yeah. But whether it's with caregivers or with patients or survivors for that matter, it's interesting how humor can actually lower stress hormones, and it can actually influence the feel-good chemicals of the brain. So I know that I've tried to incorporate that in my story as well. But and then if I remember correctly, in addition to humor, I believe that you've also incorporated music into your messages that you give people. So could you please tell us about like putting the music on your, was it a iPod or a smartphone, or what was the story there and how it helped?
Yeah. So talking about that, I mean, that's one thing is to talk about how on my son's iPod, it was an iPod. It was an iPod. It was iPod Shuffle at that point. And he let me borrow that, and I listened to the Beatles and Pink Floyd and all the really good hits. So that was a month that I had in between when I had blindness until I had my surgery. So I spent a lot of days just listening to music. But then after I started my speaking career, I was at a NSA conference. And there was this guy named Patrick Henry there. And Patrick said and he would buy, actually I bought a package with him in order for him to make me a song. And the song is all about winking with Wagner. And
that is so great.
Yeah, so I'll have to send that to you afterwards. And
absolutely.
You can put it in the show notes or whatever you do. So
winking with Wagner. Could you please tell us what some of the lyrics are? If you can think of them.
Winking with Wagner, he's got his good eye on you. Nice. I remember that.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's a really good song. It's one that I actually played a couple times at my speeches when I'm having people go through their process of writing their notes to encourage other people. I really stress that a lot. So when they're writing their notes, and this is based on a letter that my daughter wrote me, 2 months after I had surgery, she wrote me this letter. and it's phenomenal, and it's one that I carry with me no matter where I go. Anyway, so yeah, that week with Wagner and the writing of that letter comes from that letter that she wrote me.
That's fantastic. Not just for you, but also for your daughter to know that she made a huge impact with it. And then also, of course, for whoever your audiences are, when you're giving your keynote speeches and stuff, that can really resonate. It's the novelty of the music in tandem with that. It's just knowing that you've taken the curveball, like I said, that life threw you, and trying to make something positive out of it. Basically, like giving pain a purpose, that kind of thing, just like I have. Oh, go ahead.
Are you interested? Do you want me to read you the letter?
Yeah.
Okay. She wrote me this letter, and I didn't know really where I was, didn't know what was going on, didn't know how I was impacting her. I felt really disjointed at that point. So this was 2 months after I had surgery, and my eyesight still wasn't coming back. So she wrote me this letter for Father's Day. She was 13 at the time, and she wrote, "Dear Dad, Happy Dad's Day. I hope you have a great day, because you definitely deserve it. All the cars and TV commercials always say, my dad's the best. But they're all lying. You're the best ever."
Wow.
Sure,
Wow.
other people's dads are great. They're younger than you. They're sportier. And they're funner. At this point, I'm being to wonder, and like you, is she getting to a good point? But she goes on. But you've got something that they don't have. Bravery.
Mm-hmm.
Even after everything you've been through, you still get out of bed in the morning. You still look around and play with us and cook on the grill, even though you have one good eye. But you more still. You teach me. You teach me that even though you go through the toughest, most grueling things, that if you just believe that God is right there with you through everything, then everything turns out okay in the end. And you make it out alive. Not always unscathed, but alive. And give me that hope, that sense of belief. Well, I take that over Dad with 2 good eyes any day. Love, 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 Jess.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean, it's just the impact you've had on her, even when you didn't even realize it, is just so inspiring. I know that one thing that I try to share, both through my podcast episodes and my speaking as well, along with my book, is that being brave doesn't have to be the absence of fear. And it can be feeling afraid and being able to persevere anyway. And that's the mindset that you're personifying. It's the one that you're promoting. It's you're walking your talk. And obviously your daughter noticed that, and now she'll have those transferable skills to take with her as she goes to college and goes on to become an adult and a career, and possibly even a parent herself and different things like that. So that's beautiful.
She's doing all those things except for being a parent. Not yet.
Okay.
So she's
Okay.
25 now, and she lives in Alexandria, Virginia, and she's a school teacher. She's a reading teacher, believe it or not.
Wow. Well, and the thing about it is, think of the things that she can then pass along to her students.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a gift.
Yeah.
But so now, between just you obviously having your eyesight impacted, and then your wife having her scare, from a tumor perspective, are there certain things that now have changed as far as like the way the two of you view life, or just kind of how you like every day is a gift kind of a mindset? Or I mean, it's just
that seems
amazing.
kind of strange. Every day is a gift, but it's changed me, at least from where I work. In the county, my wife as well, from where she works, I mean, where she spends her time. She chooses how she spends her time. She works for a company that she loves, and the owner that she loves. For me, I mean, I work at the School for the Blind, and there's no place cooler than that, if you ask me. So, spending my time there has been great. I really want to make sure that I do what I can to help other people that have disabilities, and By the way, we all have a disability, whether we have an external disability or one we know about. It doesn't matter. So we all have something in our life.
Absolutely. Well, and I know you and I talked a little bit before the podcast today about your role with the School for the Blind, and I know that part of that includes just knowing that people will play sports even though they can't see. How does that work in terms of like say like playing baseball or other things they play? How does that work? That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it is amazing. Beat baseball. I mean, that's something that's new to me. But there's goal ball, where you have a goal all across the end of a court, another goal across the other end of the court, the entire end. And there's three people, and they roll balls at each other. But in order to block it, you actually are blinded. You're either blind or you have a blindfold on. Actually, they make you wear a blindfold whether you're blind or not. And you have to roll this ball and try to get it so the other people don't block it. And what they do is they lay down, they try to block your ball when you roll it. So and that's called goal ball.
Wow. So does the ball have like some kind of a bell on it or some kind of a sensor so they can tell where it is?
Yeah, exactly. Much like blind soccer. I mean, actually, we were fortunate enough to have the head coach of the blind soccer USA men's blind soccer team has taught at the School for the Blind in Ohio. So,
really?
Yeah, pretty incredible. We have blind soccer. We have gosh, I mean they play basketball. I don't know how they do it, but they play basketball. They do swimming. They have track. It's all adapted to whatever skill set they have. So there's different rankings. Some kids have good vision during the day, and they have night vision. There isn't very good. Or there's some that have zero vision at all. And then there's multiple layers in between. So there's different levels for different kids, depending on what the sport is.
Wow, that is so cool. I know here in Minnesota, there are actually people who are blind who play hockey. Mm-hmm. And from what I've been told, there's some kind of a sensor or a bell or something that's on the puck. So they actually will use their auditory skills to tell where it is on the ice. And I mean, I guess now I feel kind of guilty that I was the token person in gym class in high school who just walked the track and just took a B because I didn't want to try. But here they're pursuing sports and they can't even see. I mean that's so amazing.
Yeah, but I have videos on our hockey team and videos on our soccer team as well. So I can share those with you as well.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. Thank you. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So now, as I alluded to earlier, with you having written a book and being a keynote speaker, what kinds of things are you trying to do now for whether it's leadership at companies or nonprofits or hospitals or different kinds of organizations? How have you taken your personal story and now showcased it for others in that capacity?
Yeah. So the big thing right now is the keynote that I have, the program that I conduct. It's called Leaders Don't Quit. Mm-hmm. And it talks a little bit about my story, but it's more about your story or whoever is listening to the speech and really put that back in their court and helps them understand how, they don't quit either. They shouldn't quit. So there's lots of things out there that will allow them not to be in that mode. So Leaders Don't Quit is a big thing, and the retreats that I offer as well, which is actually at imnotwinkingatyou.com. You can find out more about that retreat there. And the retreat is for people with disabilities and helping them make sure they are having the confidence they need to have. They're doing away with self-limiting beliefs. They're really embracing their own disability and processing that disability, however it came about. So,
wow,
that's really what I'm doing.
Wow, that again, I keep using words like amazing and inspirational and all this kind because it is. I mean, it's just wow. But so now, could you please tell us a little bit about your book?
My book is based on my story of having brain surgery in 2011, and it's called "Sometimes It Does Take a Brain Surgery." So that book to me was the definition of how I got started, how I was able to do anything, because in the final chapter of that book, I really go into my worldview, my overarching vision, my purpose, my unifying strategies, and my scorecard for success. That to me has become the foundation for everything I do. And the book takes people from a point of blindness to sight to vision. That's the process for my company, is to go from blindness to sight to vision. And that's what I do in everything.
Wow. Well, again, I keep using words like wow as well, but that's that's great because people could then buy the book and then read it on an airplane or read it at home or take notes on it or whatever. Is it on perhaps Amazon or on your website, or where can people buy it?
Yeah, it's on Amazon or it's on my website. Same thing as my retreat. It's on my website as well.
Okay. So is there anything that I haven't asked about today, or any kind of things you want to call out for our viewers?
Wow, I think you've really hit on a lot of it. I mean, it's been a lot, and this has been very, very good. You do a great job.
Well, thank you very much. So do you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it, Brian. And of course, to all of you who are watching the podcast, thank you for doing so. And I'll look forward to having you join me for the next episode.
All right.
All right. Thank you.